G'day everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Melbourne Pro Punters panel. As usual, a man who hosted the marquee at the Portsea Polo, Darren Potter. G'day mate. We've got the wet bulb out here today because we couldn't heat it off. It's a very hot day. There's been a bit happening.
Hello. Oh, just to do it. Oh, no, there's not.
Hello.
Ralphie.
I'm very sorry. I've been watching Callum Murray ride over the past couple of weeks, and
Got a long way back there.
she's not too far back.
Too far back.
Well, that's your best opportunity, is to be out of shot.
Yeah.
And as usual, a man who managed to dodge the bad batch at Revolver on Saturday night, Racetrack Ralphie.
Yes, thank you very much, and hello everyone.
What did he do? He dodged the bad batch at Revolver.
Did you see that? There was a bit of bad gear going around there on Saturday night.
Oh, the drugs, yeah, right.
Yeah, so that certainly doesn't make you go fast, unfortunately.
It's
Society flying. Society flying as always.
So, just a tip straight out of the gate, punters, make sure you only buy synthetic drugs from reputable dealers. Don't take chances.
Let me start with 8 words. Take away all the stuff, and we study racing properly and we do our best, and I'll give you 8 words to take with you for 2017 if you don't do form properly, and just a nice basic. The last thing you should risk is talent. So you look at the Gold Coast, Stratum Star, why was it good odds? Big weight. Why was Hootson good odds? A wide barrier. The last thing you should risk is talent. I reckon that's a good starting point.
Sorry, wasn't a wide barrier. It was, quote Grace Ramage on racing.com, horrific barrier.
She went with horrific.
Horrific.
Well, in fairness to Grace, I don't know, but that was one of many, saying the Orchid barrier, the Paul barrier.
But horrific's the new benchmark. That's the new benchmark.
I appeal to all the trainers that watch. There might be less than one.
No, we know there's at least one. The Galagotis boys, we at least know they watch it because the last time that happened, they blew up.
I think Henry Dwyer mentioned to me once he's watched a few shows. So anyway, there's some trainers out there. If you've got a go forward horse drawn wide, just take advantage of it. Don't panic.
No.
I heard the Berrymans talking about written. I can't think of
written consent.
Written something else.
Where at?
Was that Warrnambool on Sunday at 1? Because they drew in written return, I think.
Yeah.
They drew inside and they went forward. I backed at its previous start and they dragged it back to last because it drew wide. If they just had to let it run from the outside gate.
Was that the previous week of
2 in a row? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that'd be right. I was there, so it never had a hope. Boys, there's been a bit happening this week. We've got a few things to follow up on, and racing's managed to make its way into the mainstream for a change. The only thing I'm curious about is what Michelle Payne thinks of it all. She's about the only one they haven't questioned about it.
Oh, as in getting everyone's 2 bobs about the Josh Cartwrights, right? Yeah. No, I saw Michelle did tweet out in response to Darren Weir's strike rate so far this year. Did you see this?
This was
Michelle
quite funny.
tweeted out my strike rate. She actually, I think she just wrote 0 from 0. In other words, she's had no rides from here and no wins.
So she's moved on. So it is the talk of sort of the racing world at the minute, isn't it, guys? Is the final race at Morphettville, which would have otherwise probably been a bit of a... Well, it's not a nondescript event for the punters because...
It's a get-out stakes, John.
Well, it is. It's the last of the 4 main states. Like, there would have still been Perth. But as like DK will back us up on, and as Mark Roden mentioned when he was on the show last, often that last race can be one of the biggest turnover races of the day because the punters, the recreational punters, are there to either try and blast out or they're sort of playing up their winnings. So would have been a heap of Maldies. Well, it was the last thing, the local quaddie there. Like, there would have been quite a bit of money going around on it, and then we get the chaos that ensued.
Yeah, so everyone will get the mainstream views everywhere else, but this show's about punters.
Yep.
So from my perspective, anyway, all I want to talk about is what that race meant for punters. And as Jockey says, it was a bit later than normal because they must have started late over there. It was 5 to 7 or something. But as you rightly point out, a lot of people might have been their last bet of the day. And I think that race requires very close looking at it, and not just at the Josh Cartwright ride. I think there are a number of rides in that race that require close scrutiny and cross-referencing with the betting. And I would start with the horses that were sitting 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th in the run. In a 1250 metre race, when the leader snuck away 6 lengths in front halfway through the race. I mean, exactly what are you waiting for, jockeys? Like, it's not like it's a 2400 metre race. It's a 1200 metre race. if you give a horse a 6 length head start, it's going to be very hard to beat. Now the winner ran one of the slowest 200 metre sectionals for the day, its last 200, and still won. You should not be able to do that in a metropolitan race. So I think that requires a lot of scrutiny.
Well, how could, with credibility, and by the way, I'll preface this by saying I do admire the fact that, unlike the Australian Trainers Association, which tends to pick and choose when it feels like making a public stance, that the Jockeys Association is always going into bat for the person under the pump. So in other words, like a family member, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, you're saying, well, this is a family member, I was in a union when I was in the building side, I know what it's like. You just say, well, I don't care about the rights and wrongs.
Yeah, we're sticking fat with them, yeah.
So that's all fine. So I do admire that side of it when it comes to the Jockeys Association. But for Des O'Keefe, so I saw someone tweet out, I didn't listen to the radio, I never listened to it, but he said that it wasn't an integrity issue. That at best is...
Naive.
Naive's a word, but also is it presumptuous? What's the word? Because it's...
Ignorant?
No, but I'm saying you've got to at least check if it's an integrity issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's complete fucking bullshit. I mean,
all the way Juppy said.
Yeah. I mean,
that sounds good.
If you think that isn't an integrity issue, what? And there was an interest. Matty Taylor spoke to Aaron Barbie from One to Follow, who does the Adelaide set, and this is something that we need to look at. Is
No, it's all right, we're taping this. No, the lady was just wondering if to put the air conditioner on. No, we turned that off.
We've got the wet bulb, we're all right. We'll call it.
Thanks for thinking of us, eh? Very cool.
Right, this is very professional what we're doing.
Not only have we got that race to deal with and the impact that it had on the result, but also they looked at it from the point, this is what the punters have got to deal with. We've got to look at that race going forward.
Yeah.
What do you make of the format of that? I haven't seen that on any other outlet anywhere discuss it from that point of view. The punters have been completely left out of this. I listened to Des O'Keefe on the radio. I wasn't particularly pleased because I'm telling you now, had Stubby Holder through some other miracle and not stayed on that horse and he'd fallen off and gone under Matty Poon's horse, we're talking about a completely different stance from the Jockeys Association, I reckon.
So well, maybe Des only cares about his constituents, which are jockeys. But Des, you're going to have a cricket match in a couple of weeks and ask people to donate to that. The listeners of that program that you were on are punters.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you think the punters felt that backed House of Wax? I think that Stubby was on. The horse that Matt Pern rode. Call Me Curtis. So Cartwright gave it a haircut when he came out on the home turn, and I mean that horse Call Me Curtis should have won the race. Absolutely no doubt about it. And what the jockeys that were immediately following the leader were doing halfway through the race is completely beyond me. So I mean there are a lot of punters that bet in that race, so everyone except those that backed the winner will be looking at that race going, what just happened?
Could I get...
Even though the horse that Cartwright rode, I mean, he certainly didn't give it any hope.
Well, you'd be fucking...
It looked like it was going right, didn't it?
He used it as a wrecking ball anyway.
Well, most of those rides in that race, you could probably forgive Stubby and the Poon train. That might be a good idea for a show.
The three jockeys that were back last,
Stubby
so there was... They were Thornton,
Pern and Western Band. Stubby and the Poon train.
Stubby and the Pern train and Thornton were all back in the back section of the field. They were sort of being dictated to.
Yeah.
So they're all very unfortunate.
Could we go back to a different starting point, mate, of Des's line when he said this is an integrity issue? With the exception of horrendous accidents, touch wood, would you have as less as possible? Rides like that don't help the mindset. Everything in racing is an integrity issue.
Yeah.
People bet on racing.
It's a betting game.
So it's a betting game. It's a wagering sport, and there are some fairly talentless people who manage to make an income from the industry who think that it isn't.
Leave me alone, or call me out.
It is, and it's a wagering sport, so everything has to be the starting point. And where is DK, by the way? I missed debating with him, but he has previously said when people say that Hong Kong do it right, we get the famous DK eye roll, and he goes, "Give me a spell. They've got this, and they have."
Yeah.
But then you know what they also do? They also do everything right.
Yeah.
Now
I agree with that.
When it comes to Hong Kong,
they've got fewer challenges, but they've
got a monopoly, all those things, but they
do
get it right.
Yeah.
So that win for this wrong every time. Racing bitch always gets it. Engelbrecht Bridges, I think is his name. But he said our starting point is the customer.
That's the difference between them and us.
Our starting point is the punter.
Yeah.
So if the punter has confidence, we can do everything. We can pay our money to the charities. We can have the Happy Wednesday experience. We can get on the young people. We can get on the old people. We can do this and that.
We can look after the horse when they retire. Yeah.
The starting point has to be the punter. Now, nothing is different, and it's all a bit interlinked, and I know we'll talk about some stuff that you brought up last week, maybe in part 2, but like, for instance, the Magic Million stuff. When you see the exorbitant money being paid for what is essentially four-legged yachts, and by that I mean people who are paying that money at the top end of the Magic Millions, money is not a concern for them.
No, that's right.
Or they're able to bullshit their way through a fairly good credit facility. There's one or two things.
Yeah.
Like if you can pay that much money for a horse, you got too much money, or you can bullshit your way through a credit
So
facility.
they yachts because they finish up in boat races?
It's nice. So where I'm going with all that though is that to those owners, shit prize money doesn't mean much. To the jockeys riding them, to the trainers looking after them, it means everything because they're feeding their families. So you can't have lower prize money without big integrity concerns. And the biggest integrity concern in Victoria at the moment, this is fact, we don't know where it's going to go, is a $3,000 race at Woolamai that they thought was a good idea to bet Australia White Toad on at the moment. There's an open inquiry into it.
But hang on, though, like with the Woolamai race, that still would have been conducted whether it was a tab or not. It's just that he's got caught out because it was televised, and I don't think they...
No, hang on, what I'm saying is, I'm not suggesting anything, I'm saying there's an inquiry, but I'm also saying that when Woolamai is a tap meeting, there is tens of thousands more dollars being bet on it.
Correct.
As with the last race in Adelaide, the get out stakes around at least Eastern Australia, there's tens of thousands more bet on it than there is compared to the prize money. If where I'm going with this is, if the prize money was commensurate with the amount of money bet on it,
correct,
the last race in Adelaide would be a $100,000 race every week.
And well, also, I don't think it's the biggest integrity concern in Victoria at the moment. There was a Challenger tournament for the tennis at Traralgon, where the young blokes just copped 7 years, because if you want to bet on if you're betting on the first set of a Challenger tournament at Traralgon, you're copping your right whack. So you can't then believe that, like, if you want to offer those markets, you have to realise that there's a lot lower integrity.
Can I just tell everyone, all our viewers watching, I said to the boys, there's a lot to talk about today, so we can't get sidetracked. So we're getting really sidetracked here. We're talking about Woolamai and the Challenger.
No,
we've got right away from the Adelaide.
Let's get back to Josh Cartwright.
Yeah.
Well, can I tie it back into Josh Cartwright? I reckon for what he did to the punters there in that race, he should be copping the similar penalty to what the young bloke copped at Traralgon, which was 7 years.
I agree with that, Jumpy. I would just appeal to the stewards to not just be obsessed with that one issue. Look at the whole race.
Yeah.
And look at all the betting and who was involved.
Just keep in the back of your mind, stewards, what he cost punters.
So a person in South Australia, a licensed person, sent me a direct message on Twitter. Don't try and guess, you probably won't get it.
Yeah, that's fine.
What benefit do you get from inciting people to berate Josh Cartwright? Yesterday morning when I said, here's the race. And my point was, if he has got issues, I hope the sport's strong enough to look after him after he gets a heavy suspension.
So what was the question? What's the incentive to berate?
I'll go on. So he thinks that I'm inciting it. You of all people should know what it's like when you're under stress and pressure. Not one person's condone his actions, but why kick the shit out of the kid and completely ruin his life because of one indiscretion? I don't think he's saying that I am, but he's saying in general. He admitted his guilt. He sought help from sports psychologists already. Everyone wants to push him down further. He went on. Not one person has suggested what he did was right, but when it's public knowledge that the kid has had a breakdown, was it public knowledge to you?
No.
It wasn't to me either.
No, I don't bet in Adelaide, so maybe
that's right. I don't possibly see how kicking the shit out of him helps. He didn't bet on the winner. He had a personal issue, 100% wrong, but accusing him of something worse could ruin someone's life. I only message you because I respect what you put out. And that's from some. So I just want to put a different side of the.
Now, my answer to that type of inquiry, and that was to Ralph directly, not to this show, but this show's primary concern is punters, and I feel like the punters were badly let down in that race. They didn't really get a fair opportunity, is my reading of the race, unless you back the winner. There are people that, punters are a solitary when things bad happen to punters, nobody finds out about it. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of stories of people doing their last and going and taking.
As you say, if you'd done 50 for the day on credit, and you've had 10 on the thing that
Call me Curtis.
or any of those three, and you've had 10 on it to try and blast out, and you neck yourself, like, are you even going to? You're not even going to get a byline in the paper.
No, but
that's the sort of that's the.
I think extremes in any example is.
No, I understand it, but it happens, right? And like,
of course.
And even if all you did was go finish a day punting and go to your family or whatever, and you're feeling, it has bad effects on people. And what punters are entitled to is to bet on fair races where every horse is doing its absolute best to win. That's what punters are. They are entitled to that. And when it doesn't happen, it needs to be addressed. So, like that, because I've said on this show repeatedly, and it seems to be going nowhere, and I promised myself I was going to do it this year, but here I am again, that the participants, the jockeys, need to be terrified of the stewards and the authorities, and they're not.
So this is where, like with that message, and it's similar, and I went through something a bit similar, I think, with when Ollie was under the pump, and I'm on the racing industry station. Ollie gave me an interview that changed my life forever, right, after the Rooms on Melbourne Cup. So I got a job at the footy show, and it's where, when the footy show, and I was been with the Beatles there for a while, when we went to Perth for the first 2 years, I got Jason and Oliver tickets to the footy show as a thank you for what Damien did for me, and I just go out and drink with Jason after the show. So when Ollie was on the pump a couple of years ago, I felt really bad talking about it. And I thought, how am I going to say things, not compromise my job and my integrity or independence of people listening to it, and still when I'm bumping Ollie, he doesn't think, well, you're a prick, you used to be a mate. So what I'm saying is I do have sympathy for media coverage of it, and as with that person who messaged me, I think that's why it's important for people like us to be hands-off. I actually don't want to know participants, because I'd rather just comment on things, and it also helps you, I think, when you're doing form. You don't want to know if a trainer or a jockey's a good bloke. You want to know, can this make me money?
I think that's just I'm probably different. I'm analytical enough to know that all I'm looking at is whether the person's in form, and that's all. Because there was another thing that I wanted to mention out of that. I want to give a big, and I've given him a rap a few times, Buckets More. He showed real leadership after that race when he got straight on Twitter and said, how can I possibly have any confidence riding in the race against this bloke? Now, I'm not kicking Josh Cartwright while he's down. If anyone thinks that, well, that's your opinion. I hope if he's got a problem, he sorts it out. But I'm just glad that of all the jockey ranks, not so much from the Jockeys Association, that's where the real leadership came from, was the senior jockey there just going, he wants to go home to his wife and 2 kids.
Well, and you pointed me in that direction, Juppy, and I looked, and there seemed to be a few jockeys that had that point of view, and I think that's to their credit. And I would just say, as a general comment to any jockeys that watch the show, or friends of jockeys, or jockey managers, that don't take anything we say personally.
No.
Because we're talking about the riding in a race. We're not talking about the person's personality
always do it statistically.
or situation. There's nothing personal about it, but we're in a way representing punters and our audience, and our main concern is that they've done their cash, and we want them to get a fair go.
And also for the benefit of the sport. And so we're Daniel Moore, I think Kieran McAvoy as well.
Yeah, came back, chimed in.
Now, I don't blame by the way, but they both
was pretty strong.
Yeah, she said that on
So they came out from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
So it's a dual-edged sword. It's safety and integrity, right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying to the jockeys, and never is one thing that comes out of our mouths of all good, bad, or indifferent, ever a lack of respect for their courage that they have in their.
No, definitely not.
But when a smelly ride goes unchecked, not in this case, which was a dangerous ride, but a smelly ride in a different race, different situation, when they all say nothing as well, that doesn't do the sport any good either. I understand why they say nothing, but it doesn't do the sport any good. I just want to. There's one other one, because the jockey said about mental health, as did this particular person. So just this from a third angle, and I'll preface this by saying I did tell the bloke I was going to read it out anonymously. It's another message, and it's from a customer of mine. Ralph, I do suffer mental health issues, and had to recently retire from my occupation due to them. That ride was intentional, not reckless, and whether due to stress and other issues with other riders, he was paid to insure their horses. The question was he paid to ensure these horses didn't win, or was that his mindset? I have no idea and don't pretend to, but we, the public, have a right to know, as it was a public event, the public money on,
Yeah.
which is what you guys are saying. This is what the integrity unit is for, and if he is found to have had mental health issues, it can then be decided if it warrants mitigation in the case. And I think that's fair too. The stewards in this case do need access to medical records, but they should not be made public or made available to people not in the investigation. I feel sorry for Josh if he is sick, as I know how hard it can be, how low you can feel and what thoughts find their way into your brain, but you can't hide behind mental health as an excuse. Whatever the outcome, people should not prejudge just because he pleaded guilty, and the appropriate punishment may well be a revocation of his jockey's licence for his own and other safety and well-being rather than a suspension. I thought that's not a bad one.
I think he summed that up beautifully, and that's similar to my feelings. It's like, give him all the help that he needs, but he has to serve a significant penalty for what he did.
Yeah.
Like, it's just out of order.
It is. So I think if we can
Plus with the Josh Cartwright thing, the other rides in that race, the James McDonald penalty. Well, you know, the penalty.
He'd like 2 beers, even though we're filming. We're not going to shout out across what we're filming.
Can I please have a pint and a pot? Please?
And he said, "Immense, please."
Yeah.
Thanks. We're still filming.
No, we're all right.
I'm on the waters. Thanks. Eat a salad, by the way. You're giving a salad for the year.
Yes, new year, new me, Ralph. You know that.
Fit dads live longer.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that from a punter's point of view. So if my reading of the James McDonald thing, just to come at a different perspective, is that I would have liked to have seen James treated with a lesser penalty, provided he came completely clean with everything that had happened, to help stewards build up their database of intelligence to understand how to get to the bottom of these things. Now it's clear to me that did not happen. Okay, so I'm not really on board with people that think James has been treated too harshly.
No.
James has admitted his part in that particular bet,
just repeat what
but he hasn't.
What do you think should have happened there? Just repeat that point.
I think the steward should have gone to James and said, "Okay, James, if you tell us everything that's happened over the past 12 months with any of this type of activity that you've been involved with and people you've been involved with, give us the whole story, your phone records. We have to be able to construct it, verify what you're saying. Then you'll be back riding in 6 months."
So we're just talking
So we can clean the whole
hypothetically
thing
here, totally hypothetically here. Are you saying that if a jockey negotiated with stewards to tell the full story of everything, that a jockey, hypothetically here, should get a discount to a serious charge if he told the stewards everything behind closed doors? Hypothetically.
Yeah, but so the problem is it stays behind closed doors. That's no good. That doesn't help. That doesn't help the. That's a start, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't really help the confidence of the customer.
Thank you very much.
That's right.
So in the previous case that you're referring to,
No, I'm talking
sure
hypothetically.
it might happen behind closed doors, but
Hypothetically.
they look. Where I'm coming from is in AFL these things get like really well investigated, and the truth tends to come out, okay, and it doesn't hurt that sport. It's more popular than it's ever been. You know what I mean? Like the problem with racing, there's too much of a tendency to want to sweep things under the carpet all the time and avoid controversy.
So
they're better off having controversy. It's good for the game. Ventilating things, understanding what's happening.
Let's go to the next level, Potts. Is the NFL frightened of any sort of controversy? Like, if we look at the NFL in the last 12 or 18 months, it's had domestic violence, it's had murders, it's had pretty much everything you can think of, and the only thing that's slowed the ratings up in the last 12 months has been the quality of the product.
Yeah, but in fairness, they did try to bury the Deflategate thing, and they didn't cover themselves in glory there. But where you mentioned the James McDonald thing, which gets me another thing. There are a few lefties on Twitter, like Marco and your mate Snowy.
Hello, Marco. Hello, Snowy.
Who, whenever I say the jockeys aren't the elite jockeys and trainers, they go, "Well, how much is too much?" When it comes to how much these guys should be paid. So James McDonald for that race, Stern, would have been lucky to clear $2,000 for winning the race. Would have been lucky. I think his share was 5%. So 3,000, and then after tax and expenses, jockey, his manager, and all that kind of stuff.
Race, wasn't it?
No, it was his first start. So you think, well, this is a fucking model.
So it was 100,000 race too.
Yeah, no, I think at the time was before they raced it. So I looked it up. It wasn't much. So he goes, well, I said, I can make twice as much tax-free or just give them away at 1,000. Now, I think we're all in agreement that there's no real integrity issue here in general. In isolation, we understand why the rule's there, but in isolation, there's no real integrity issue.
I disagree.
I'm saying in isolation, we'll get your point second. But what I'm saying is, what people like the Marcos and Snowies of the world don't understand, they should look at the Magic Millions sales. They should look at the betting figures around Australia. They should look at how much money Crown Bet have made just coming into the market. Good on them. The elite participants in our sport, relative to the amount of money that goes through our sport, get paid fuck all. Chris Wallace should be on 50 million a year. And now I know you say that, but then if you look at what a Macquarie executive does, I read the financial review every day. You know, the people who are CEOs of banks. I don't, you know, this might be naive. I don't think you need the intellect to get the job. But really, I mean, the banks just run themselves every day. Everyone gets a clip of the ticket on the interest rate. These are elite level participants. They have their decisions make or break races and all the things we've been discussing. And if those jockeys were all of a sudden making 10 or 15 million to do the right thing, they wouldn't ever be tempted to do the wrong thing, because that's why US sport and elite level soccer and the best tennis players, as opposed to the worst, are relatively, of course some of them are going to fall through the tank, but relatively free of those issues.
I think the thing that the JMac case proves, and we can compare it to what we'll talk about in part 2 with the Cobalt stuff, the difference between what the punters and the participants see, and we look at that and go, that didn't look right, and the gap between that and actually proving it and getting it to stick is enormous. So there's things that I've looked at with the JMac thing that I looked at and gone, in my opinion, what was happening there? Who knows?
So where's the...
Well, because to be quite honest, as soon as the JMac thing came up, right, I then looked at the dates, realised it was its first start. But the first thing that popped into my head when I heard there was a controversy around JMac and the Stern was the day it got beat at $1.40 or whatever, and he rode it very cold. Now, I would like the truth about that to be known, like, because there might be no truth. Who knows? Who knows who laid it? It's all, you know, could all be. But like, the problem is that a lot of punters will have thought that.
And that's the point. And why? And this is where I make the difference. And I'm assuming this is where you're going from. Where I make the difference on in pure isolation. If a jockey's having a grand on a horse that he knows has a lap on the field and he wants it to win, in pure isolation, there's not a big problem. The problem then stems from he can't put the bet on himself, he gives it to a mate. We as punters go, well, what other information are you sharing with a mate? What other things are you doing wrong? It's the mark warning thing why they shouldn't have spoken.
A subject for a future show is, though, that I've recently thought about a bit. If he's had 10,000 on it, and then on the way to the barriers, he's having a little chit chat with all the other jockeys, which seems to be, happening in epidemic proportions. That sort of thing worries me.
No, and that's why you can't. I understand that's why you can't.
There's lots of jockey chit chat on the way to barriers. Punters, write into us about that. Tell us if you've noticed a lot of chatting between jockeys on the way to the stalls.
Absolutely, but I think we've all agreed, and we've said this previously. As a punter, you have to be paranoid. You're better off being paranoid. Why is this happening? Why do they choose that? So that you don't need an extra level of paranoia. So if a jockey's
I can't afford to have an extra level of paranoia. It'd be fucking.
So if a jockey's talking with a professional punter, exchanging information with them, well then the query then is, as you say, when he rides a bad race, he might have just ridden a bad race. It's a sport, but as punters we're thinking, fucking hang on, why are you doing that? Why on Exosphere did you go the clear slowest lane of the track? Why were you so arrogant to not go to what was clearly the best part of the track? Now the reason probably, no doubt the reason was because he fucked up, as we all do. But you don't need that extra layer of paranoia to say, why is a jockey dealing with a professional punter in that way?
Yeah, true.
Well, basically I'm fucking sick and tired of talking about jockeys, so we'll be back with part 2.